day everyone, I'm Maureen Pinales from BSED Math 3B and ang report ko po is about evaluation methods and techniques. So let's first define what is evaluation. Evaluation, it is methodologically diverse using both qualitative methods and quantitative methods including case studies, survey, research, statistical analysis, and model building among others. This is also the process of making judgments based on criteria and evidence and determining the extent to which instructional objectives are attained. So, alam ko naman na gamay na gamay yun na about evaluation kasi nga naturo na sa atin to ni Sir Ezra. So, meron tayong iba't ibang methods, techniques, and approaches for conducting evaluation. So, ano-ano nga ba itong mga to? Una is accelerated aging. Accelerated aging can be run to simulate a designated time period ranging from 1 month to 5 years or longer. So, from the word itself, accelerated aging, so medyo matagal. So, it is based on product that can be released to market based upon success on accelerated aging test result that simulates the period claimed for the product. Next is action research. Action research is a process in which participants examine their own educational practice systematically and carefully using the techniques of research. So, it is also called as teacher research. So, magagamit natin yung ating scientific knowledge pagdating dito sa action research. It also focuses on teacher problems. It is also systematic at process-oriented. Next is Advanced Product Quality Planning or APQP. APQP is a structured process aimed at ensuring customer satisfaction with new products or processes. From the word itself, customer satisfaction. So, ang goal nito ay yung product quality planning is to facilitate communication with everyone involved to assure that all required steps are completed on time. So, next is alternative assessment. So, ano nga ba ang alternative assessments? So, these are a method of evaluation that measures a student's level of proficiency in a subject as opposed to the student's level of knowledge. So, ang overall goal naman nito is to allow students to demonstrate their knowledge and execute tasks in unique and innovative ways. Another one is appreciative inquiry or AI. It is a strength-based positive approach to leadership development and organizational change. It can be used by individuals, teams, organization, or at the societal level. In each case, it helps people move toward a shared vision for the future by engaging others in strategic innovation. Next is assessment. Assessment is the systematic basis for making inferences about the learning and development of students. So, it is also the process of defining, selecting, designing, collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and using information to increase students' learning and development. So, sabi nga ni Sir Ezra, meron tayong formative at summative assessment. So, yung formative assessment, in progress siya. Nagbe-base siya dun sa process na nangyayari sa bata. So, yung summative naman, ito yung grading system na nagiging result pagkatapos ng subject na to. So, dito na magbabase yung grade ng student. Next is axiomatic design. Axiomatic design is a systems design methodology using matrix methods to systematically analyze the transformation of customers' needs into functional requirements, design, parameters, and process variables. So, ang ultimate goal naman ng axiomatic design is to establish a science base for design and to improve design activities by providing the designer with a theoretical foundation based on logical and rational thought processes and tools. So, karaniwan ginagamit ito ng mga engineering. Next is benchmarking. So, it's a process where you measure your company's success against other similar companies to discover if there is a gap in performance that can be closed by improving your performance. Studying other companies can highlight what it takes to enhance your company's efficiency and become a bigger player in your industry. So, ito naman ay mas ginagamit ng mga entrepreneurs at mga businessmen para malaman kung may success ba yung paglago ng kanilang company. So next one is case study. It is an in-depth, detailed examination of a particular case within a real-world context. It involves for teaching. It uses a real-world situation as a basis of learning. It relies on students to explore the topic and use critical thinking to come to a solution, decision, or action, rather than relying on instructions to explain the problem or issue and report the solution. Next is change management. It is a systematic approach to dealing with the transition or transformation of an organization goals, processes, or technologies. From the word itself, change. So, ang purpose nito is to implement strategies for effecting change, controlling change, and helping people to adapt to change. Next is clinical trials, also known as clinical studies. Test potential treatments in human volunteers to see whether they should be approved for wider use in the general population. So, from the word itself, clinical trial. So, dito, lalabas yung mga chemicals na ginagamit ng mga medicines, ganon. It is a treatment using drugs, o mga gamot, or device, or biological, such as vaccine, blood product, or gene therapy. Or genes therapy, should I say. Next is cohort study. It is a particular form of longitudinal study that samples a cohort performing a cross-section at intervals through time. So, ito ay isang panel study where the individuals in the panel share a common characteristics. Next is competitive analysis. In marketing and strategic management is an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of current and potential competitors. It provides both an offensive and defensive strategic context to identify opportunities and trades. So, alam naman natin pag sa market, diba? May mga kalaban, so kailangan mong alamin, i-analyze mo kung ano ba yung dapat mong gawin. Next is consensus decision making. Is a creative and dynamic way of reaching agreement between all members of a group. It is simply voting for an item and having the majority of the group getting their way, a group consensus that is committed in finding solutions that everyone actively supports or at least can live with. Next is consensus-seeking decision-making, also known as consensus or voting hybrid decision-making. Is a term sometimes used to describe a formal decision process similar to the decision-making variant known as formal consensus. Next is content analysis. Content analysis is a research tool used to determine the presence of certain words, themes, or concepts within some given qualitative data. Examples is text. From the word itself, content, nilalaman. So, from this analysis, a researcher can quantify and analyze the presence, meanings, and relationship of such certain words, themes, or concepts. Next is conversation analysis, or CA. Is an approach to the study of social interaction embracing both verbal and non-verbal conduct in situations of everyday life. So, from the word itself again, conversation. So, dito lalabas yung talk-in interaction that takes place with any individual and in any setting. So, kahit saang lugar. Next is cost-benefit analysis. Sometimes also called benefit-cost analysis, is a systematic approach to estimating the strengths and weaknesses of alternative use to determine options which provide the best approach to achieving benefits while preserving savings. So, from the word itself, cost-benefit or benefit-cost, ano nga ba yung halagang makukuha mo or ano nga ba yung benepisyong makukuha mo sa pag-analyze dun sa produkto na meron ka. Next is course evaluation. Course evaluation is a short survey conducted by an educator at the end of a class or course of study. So, ang aim nito is to collect general information on what each student like and dislike most about the class with the goal of improving the educational experience for future students. So next is data mining. Data mining is a process of extracting and discovering patterns in large data sets involving methods of the intersection of machine learning, statistics, and database system. So hindi na unfamiliar sa atin tong word na data. Yes, right? Kasi ginagamit na natin to palagi sa statistics. So ang overall goal nito is to extract info from a dataset and transform the info into a comprehensible structure for further use. Next is Delphi method. Delphi method is a forecasting process framework based on the results of multiple rounds of questionnaire sent to a panel of experts. So these techniques can also be adapted for using in face-to-face meetings and is then called mini DIFILE or estimate talk estimate. Next is discourse analysis or discourse studies. It's an approach to the analysis of written, vocal, or sign language use or any significant semiotic event. So, ang objectives of discourse analysis are variously defined in terms of coherent sequences of sentences, propositions, speech, or turns out talk. Next is electronic portfolio. Electronic portfolio is a collection of electronic evidence assembled and managed by a user, usually on the web. So, kilala din ang electronic portfolio as a digital portfolio. Kasi diba, alam naman natin electronic, gumagamit tayo ng mga iba't ibang paraan na gaya ngayon, ng mga iba't ibang technologies. Pwede rin na mag-include ang text, electronic files, images, multimedia, blog, entries, and hyperlinks. Next is environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is a process that systematically surveys and interprets relevant data to identify external opportunities and traits and could influence future decisions. So, environmental from the word, yung nangyayari sa environment natin, kung ano yung mga nauuso o yung mga important na bagay na dapat na ginagawa natin ngayon sa environment natin para mas lumago ito. So, kailangan natin alamin o tuklasin. Next is ethnography. It's a type of qualitative research that involves immersing yourself in a particular community or organization to observe their behavior and interaction up close. So, from the word itself, ethnography. So, ethnic groups. So, halimbawa dito yung mga Igorot, titingnan mo kung ano ba yung klaseng pamumuhay nila. Next is experiment. So, hindi naman na siguro bago sa atin ang experiment. So, experiment is a scientific procedure undertaken to make a discovery, test a hypothesis, or demonstrate a known fact. At alam din natin na part siya sa scientific method at pinag-aaralan natin ito nung tayo pa ay high school. At lalo na yung mga major in science ngayon, pinag-aaralan pa rin nila yan. Nag-experiment pa rin sila. Next is experimental techniques. Experimental techniques is an interdisciplinary publication of the Society for Experimental Mechanics, focusing on state-of-the-art technical innovation, sophisticated application, and developments in experimental mechanics and dynamics. So, minamanipula nito ang isang bagay o isang variable para malaman kung may pagbabago ba sa isang variable o kung may cause or changes in another variable. Next is factor analysis. Factor analysis is a statistical method used to describe variability among observed correlated variables in terms of potentially lower number of unobserved variables called factors. Halimbawa nito is possible ba na ang isang variation in 6 observed variables mainly reflect the variation in 2 unobserved variables? So, magagamit na naman natin, kasi may variable na naman siya, magagamit na natin na naman yung pagka-magaling natin sa matematika. And from the word itself is statistical method used. From the definition, I mean. Next is factorial experiment. So, ano nga bang factorial experiment? Factorial experiment is an experiment whose design consists of two or more factors, each with discrete possible values or levels, and whose experimental units take on all possible combination of these levels across all such factors. So, ito naman ay interested in the main effects and the interaction effects among different factors. Next is feasibility study. Feasibility study is an assessment of the practicality of a proposed project or system. So, ang aim nito is to objectively and rationally uncover the strengths and weaknesses of an existing business. So, about na naman ito sa business na ginagawa mo or proyekto. Next is field experiments. So, field experiments are experiments carried out outside of laboratory settings. So, from the word itself, field, sa labas ng laboratorio. So, they can also randomly assign subjects to either treatment or control groups in order to test claims of causal relationships. Next is fixtureless in-circuit test. A test methodologically for printed circuit boards, PCBs, that uses two or more flying probes which are controlled by software. The probes move around the board under the test and contact electrical components and test points on the PCB. So, ginagamit ito ng mga nag-aaral ng mga kuryente from the word itself, circuit, or mga ibang engineering na yung mga electrical engineering. So, it is also an alternative to bed of nails testing. Next is focus group. Focus group is best defined as a small group of carefully selected participants who contribute open discussions for research. From the word itself, focus. So, pipili lang siya ng mga participants na pwede niyang interview. Next is force field analysis. Force field analysis is a development in social science. It provides a framework for looking at the factors or forces that influence a situation, originally social situation. So, it looks at forces that are either driving movement toward a goal or blocking movement toward a goal, hindering forces. Next is game theory. Game theory is the study of the ways in which interacting choices of economic agents produce outcomes with respect to the preferences or utilities of those agents, where the outcomes in question might have been intended by none of the agents. So, from the word itself, game theory or science of strategy. Next is grading in education. From the word itself, grading. Grado. So, definition nito is the attempt to apply standardized measurements of varying levels of achievement in a course. It can be assigned as letters, usually A through F, as a percentage or grade point average. Next is historical method inquiry. So, from the word itself, historical, o pag-aaralan natin yung mga naganap nung sinauna, kung ano ba yung mga pagbabago. So, papasok na naman dito yung changes. Next is interview. So, hindi naman nasuguro iba sa atin yung interview, no? So, alam na natin kung anong nagaganap pag may interview. Next is marketing research. So, from the word marketing, o sa mga business, yan. Ito yung ginagamit nila. Kung ano ba yung best, kung ano ba yung magandang market. So, yan. Next is meta-analysis. So, meta-analysis is a statistical analysis that combines the results of multiple scientific studies. So, lalabas na naman yung statistical analysis. So, can also be performed when there are multiple scientific studies addressing the same question, with each individual study reporting measurements that are expected to have some degree of error. Next is metrics. So, ano ba ang metrics? Metrics are measures of quantitative assessment commonly used for comparing and tracking performance or production. It can be used in variety of scenario relied on in the financial analysis of companies by both internal managers and external stakeholders. Next is most significant change, or MSE. Approach involves generating and analyzing personal accounts of change and deciding which of this account is the most significant and why. This is not just about collecting and reporting stories, but about having processes to learn from these stories in a particular, to learn about the similarities and differences in what different groups or individuals value. Next is multivariate statistics. Multivariate statistic is a subdivision of statistics encompassing the simultaneous observation and analysis of more than one outcome variable. So, ang concern nito is yung understanding ng mga different aims and backgrounds of each of the different forms of multivariate analysis and how they relate to each other. So, next is naturalistic observation. So, from the word itself, naturalistic, which means nature, is a method that involves observing subjects in their natural environment. So, ang goal nito is to look at behavior in a natural setting without intervention. This can be applied to tutorial or web-based evaluation if subjects are given a task and asked to go through the process without intervention from the researcher in order to observe the natural way a subject would proceed. Next is observational techniques. So, from the word itself again, observe. So, ang meaning nito is the process of viewing phenomena in their naturally occurring setting. Sa market research, this can be a standalone form of research methodology or can form part of a larger project and be combined with other methods. Next one is opinion poll. Method for collecting information about the views or beliefs of a given groups. For the information from an opinion poll can shed light on and potentially allow inferences to be drawn about certain attributes of a larger population. Next is organizational learning. Organizational learning is the process of creating, retaining, and transferring knowledge within an organization. So, it improves over time as it gains experience. From this experience, it is able to create knowledge. Next is participant observation, or PO. It's a research methodology where the researcher is immersed in the day-to-day activities of the participant. So, kailangan din na ang mahaba-habang oras kasi pag ino-observe mo yung mga ethnic group, cultural, or religious communities. So, kailangan mo ng malaking oras pag kumuha ka ng isang participant ng kagaya ng mga ITAS, gano'n. Next is Participatory Impact Pathways Analysis, or PIPA. So, it is a planning and monitoring and evaluation tool designed to help the people involved in a project, program, or organization make explicit their theories of change. In other words, how they see themselves achieving their goals and having impact. So, ang theory nito is theory of change for a project. Next is policy analysis. Policy analysis is a technique used in public administration to enable civil servants, activists, and others to examine and evaluate the available options to implement the goals of laws and elected officials. This process is also used in the administration of large organizations with complex policies. Next is process improvement. Process improvement is the proactive task of identifying, analyzing, and improving upon existing business processes within an organization for optimization and to meet new quotas or standards of quality. So, from the word itself, process improvement. So, it also serves to automate processes that are added into the software suite. Next is the project management. Project management is the application of processes, methods, skills, knowledge, and experience to achieve specific project objectives according to the project acceptance criteria within agreed parameters. So, it has a final deliverables that are constructed to a finite time scale and budget. So, from the word itself, project management. So, ginagamit ito ng mga architecture, ganyan, yung mga engineering na civil engineering. Next is qualitative research. So, qualitative research is the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting non-numerical data such as language. It can be used to understand how an individual subjectively perceives and gives meaning to their social reality. Next is qualitative audit. So, qualitative audit analyzes the quality and effectiveness of the content. It also provides insight to whether or not the content is useful, usable, enjoyable, and persuasive to your audience. Next is quality circle. So, quality circle or quality control circle is a group of workers who do the same or similar work who met regularly to identify, analyze, and solve work-related problems. So, it can consist of minimum of 3 and maximum of 12 members in number. Next is quality control or QC. Quality control is a process through which a business seeks to ensure that product quality is maintained or improved. So, it involves in testing units and determining if they are within the specification for the final product. So, next is quality management. Quality management is the act of overseeing all activities and tasks that must be accomplished to maintain a desired level of excellence. It also includes the determination of quality policy, creating and implementing quality planning and assurance and quality control and quality improvement. Next is quantitative research. From the word itself, quantity. So, quantitative research is the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. Quantitative research is the opposite of qualitative research, which involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data. Next is questionnaire. Questionnaire is a set of printed or written questions with a choice of answer devised for the purpose of a survey or a statistical study. So, hindi naman nabago sa atin ang questionnaire, right? So, next is questionnaire construction. So, from the word itself, construction, kung paano pagkakagawa ng tanong. So, it refers to the design or questionnaire to gather statistically useful information about a given topic. Dito din papasok yung opinion mo about sa questionnaires. Next is root cause analysis or RCA. Is the process of discovering the root causes of problems in order to identify appropriate solutions. So, from the word itself, root cause analysis. So, ugat kung ano ang dahilan ng mga nangyari. So, it also assumes that it is much more effective to systematically prevent and solve for underlying issues rather than just treating and lack symptoms and putting out fires. Next is rubric. So, rubric is a scoring tool that explicitly describes the instructor's performance expectation for an assignment of his or work. Halimbawa, dito is argument, evidences, clarity that will be assessed for the students. So, hindi na rin bago sa atin yung rubric kasi lagi ay gumagawa tayo nito. Next is sampling. So, from the word itself, sampling, sample means selecting the group that you will actually collect data from in your research. So, hindi na rin bago sa atin ang sampling kasi ginagamit din natin ito sa statistics. Next is accreditation. Accreditation is the recognition from an accrediting agency that an institution maintains a certain level of educational standards. Next is self-assessment. Self-assessments provides the student with an opportunity to self-evaluate or make judgments about their learning process and products of learning based on criteria that they have agreed on with their instructor. So, hindi na rin bago sa atin ang self-assessment. Next is Six Sigma or denoted by 6 and the symbol sigma is a set of techniques and tools for process improvement. So, ang process nito is one in which 99.99966% of all opportunities to produce some feature of a part are statistically expected to be free of defects. Next is standardized test. So, hindi na rin ito bago sa atin. Any test, in which the same test given in the same manner to all test takers and graded in the same manner for everyone. Next is statistical process control, or SPC, is defined as the use of statistical techniques to control a process or production method. So it helps you monitor process behavior, discover issues in internal systems, and find solution for production issues. Next is statistical survey. So statistical survey is any structure inquiry designed to obtain aggregated data which may be qualitative or quantitative where the individual or corporate identifies of the respondents are in themselves of little significance. So from the word itself, again, is statistical. Hindi na rin bago sa atin kasi lagi natin ginagawa, lalo na yung mga COVID cases, ginagawa natin na survey kung saan sila tumaas, ganun. Next is statistics. So, it's the science concerned with developing and studying methods for collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting empirical data. So, yun nga, hindi na bago sa atin ang statistics. Next is strategic planning. Strategic planning is a process in which organization leaders determine their vision for the future as well as identify their goals and objectives for the organization. The goals of this should fall so that the organization is enabled to reach its started vision. Next is structured interviewing. Structured interviewing simply means using the same interviewing methods to assist candidates applying for the same job. So, the same questions yung ibibigay, the same grading. Candidate responses on the same scale and making hiring decision based on consistent, predetermined at saka qualifications ng any interview. Next is systems theory. Systems theory is the interdisciplinary study of systems which are cohesive groups of interrelated, interdependent parts that can be natural or human-made. So, from the word itself, system, teorya ng mga teorya from the systems. So, next is student testing. So, from the word itself, student, tinetest nila yung kalidad ng isang estudyante. Next is total quality management, or TQM. Is the continual process of detecting and reducing or eliminating errors in manufacturing, streamlining supply chain management, improving the customer experience, and ensuring that employees are up to speed with training. Next is triangulation, means using more than one method to collect data on the same topic. This is a way of assuring the validity of research through the use of variety of methods to collect data on the same topic, which involves different types of samples as well as methods of data collection. So that's all my report. Thank you and God bless.